two things our ruling classes object to the most strenuously. They don't always say it out loud, though often they do. Christianity, not religion, Christianity specifically, and white people. Kind of interesting. And again, you can draw your own conclusions as to why that might be, why those would be your operating hatreds in a country that for 230 out of 250 years was majority white and Christian. Who knows, right? But those clearly are the things that people like Tim Walz, people like Peggy Flanagan, people like Jacob Fry hate the most. And we know that because they can't stop themselves from telling you. Here's an interview she did with a local radio station several years ago in which she explained that as a Native American, she's a Native American somehow, from an affluent suburb, but Native American. Peggy Flanagan feels this very deeply. Listen.
Unfortunately, Minnesota nice too often means that we gloss over the deep inequities that exist in our state. We're one of the happiest states in the country. Our schools and healthcare systems are at the top of the list on all the lists that you want to be on top of. We've got a really incredible state. If you're white, if you are a person of color, if you are indigenous, if you are an immigrant or refugee, the opposite is true. As a Native American woman, it is not lost on me that I work in a system that was created in many ways to eliminate and erase me and our community as a whole. So I'm not interested in just making policy change here and there, but we also need to be in a place where we call white supremacy white supremacy.
So you could sit and like parse this, like how Native American is Peggy Flanagan? How Ojibwa is she really? But it's not really even worth having that argument. What's so much more important to understand is the hostility. And boy, can you feel it. As a Native American woman, the system was designed to erase me. Really, you're a lieutenant governor. You seem pretty visible, actually, for an invisible person. Right. It's absurd. It's felt rather than reasoned. But it's no less significant because it's irrational, because it's clear, it's heartfelt. This is someone who really doesn't like the whites. And a lot of them are that way, including a lot of the whites.
Welcome to the J.J. Carrell Show. Tug Carlson, spot on. This is a topic nobody wants to talk about. This is a topic that no one wanted to talk about for decades and decades and decades. And it is now just recently been okay to say it out loud. Now, if you would have told me a year, 6 months ago that we're going to have these open discussions. I mean, I've been discussing this for a long time, but open, like everyone's discussing it. Not just black people oppressed, saying that whites are horrible and whites are demons. And no, white people actually fighting back and saying, no. That's absurd. I'm not allowing you to say that without a rebuttal. I would have said, you're crazy. That's not going to happen. America is not going to be ready. But now we've accelerated. Everything in this world feels accelerated, a forced acceleration. That's a whole nother topic for another day. But there is a feeling of a acceleration of doom, meaning whatever the elites, the people that hate America and hate the world and want to reset it, or hate the white world and want to reset by just erasing white people, there feels to be a sense of urgency. And that's why we're feeling this acceleration to the end game. Tug Carlson asked a very important question. Why is it that the only groups of people that are attacked are the Christians and the whites? All of Western Europe, sans Poland and Hungary, America, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia, all white nations. They're all being colonized. They're all being invaded. Why are we the only group of people being invaded? Why? Why are the whites? I mean, this is a fair question. Why are white nations being forced to allow invaders into their country? They don't have the same skin color. They don't speak the same languages. They don't believe in the same gods. They do not have any language connection, cultural, societal connection. In fact, the people that we're told that we have to bring in hate us. And then just a side note, that woman, Miss Flanagan, the lieutenant governor of Minneapolis, there is no more dangerous person. I'm going to almost quote Malcolm X. There is no more dangerous person than the white liberal. And I will go on top of what Malcolm X says and say the most dangerous group of people in the United States of America are white liberal women. They are a cancer in our society. They love to kill their babies. The ones that do make it through the vaginal canal and live, they like to mutilate, turn into Frankensteins. They are a vile group of humans. Vile. And they are part of the downfall, and their effeminate husbands and spouses are the downfall of the United States of America. I've talked about this topic before, black violence in the United States of America. And I know a lot of people get uneasy when they talk about it. I don't really care. I don't. Truth is just the truth. If this was roaming groups of white teenagers, white young adults to mid-30s, destroying our communities, running through convenience stores, fast food joints, Walmarts, Costco's, cruise ships, movie theaters, malls, gas stations. If whites were doing this and destroying everything, I would be the first one playing video after video after video. But I wouldn't just be playing videos and talking about it. I would be in the streets correcting that shit. Not in my community. You're not representing my race. You're not doing this. And I would bet you $1 million, you would see other white men side by side with me beating the crap out of their teenage sons and daughters and young adults. Like literally grabbing them and dragging them back to the house. We wouldn't tolerate it, not for a second. Not for a second. And yet the black community tolerates it. I will say this to the black community's defense, and probably the only thing that I will say, and it's not really a defense, it is just an acknowledgement of what's happened. They have been propagandized so much to believe. Think about how vile the liberal white people are. They convince an entire race of people that they are grotesquely inferior. That there's no expectation of civility. There is zero expectation that they are going to behave like a first world human being. That there is an expectation that they are going to be violent. There's an expectation that they are going to breed like animals, like randomly just breeding. Even animals don't do that. There is an expectation that they are going to kill each other. There is an expectation that we're going to put abortion clinics inside their communities and they are going to kill themselves for us because we don't want their kind, the mongrels, as Margaret Sanger called them, the undesirables in our societies anymore. We have abdicated our most beautiful metropolitan cities to blacks. You go to any metropolitan city, almost big and medium size, large and medium size, and there is a black mayor, there is black city council, black chief of police, majority black police force, majority black schools run by majority black administrators, and every single element of society in the major cities and the mid metropolitan cities are in absolute free fall and decay, absolute violent chaos. And yet we, the white people, are the problem. I saw a video of a young black man, and he was powerful, and I apologize I don't have it. And he's in this short clip, it was a TikTok clip, in about less than a minute, he listed all of the ills in the black community right now. And he made the point at the end. Do you know what they all have in common? Two things. No white people are doing it. And the second thing in common, all blacks are doing it to themselves. But the problem is, see, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, and I know how this is going to sound, but as you know me, I don't care. I'm just going to tell you what the truth was. 70s, not so much. It was a very good vibe time besides Jimmy Carter screwing us. 80s were powerful. So it's really like the late 80s, early 90s, 2000s. The reason why nobody talked about this, besides being afraid, it was starting to be the cancel culture, politically correct. But besides that, the truth, the real truth, was whites didn't care that blacks were killing blacks. There was an expectation that you were going to do that in the new current form of black Americans. Again, I've talked about this many, many times. This is an anomaly in black culture. This is not how black Americans behaved in any manner until recent. This is recent times. But when it did start to spiral, the murders and the rapes and the assaults, as long as they were raping each other, they were killing each other. They were selling drugs to each other. They were swindling their own cities and their own communities through their political gains, and their black preachers were selling garbage. Nobody cared because it had no impact on whites. Yes, it hurt us economically because we had to keep pouring money into a black hole, if you will, in the cities. Yes, no one wanted to do that. Yes, there was concerns about our cities are being taken over. But as long as blacks killed blacks, nobody cared. Why is it now so in our face? And so why are we now reacting to it? Because you, the blacks in inner city America, now are killing whites. They are raping whites at an astonishing rate. The assaults, the home burglaries, the destruction of property now has gone into white America. We are now having to spend billions of dollars as blacks destroy every piece of infrastructure, every piece of business, prosperity, societal, cultural, and we're having to constantly rebuild. And now there is no, well, they're just doing it to each other. That is a lie. And then the other part of this equation is whites have come to their limit on being told that we are the problem. Nobody's going in. There's no white people going into black communities forcing black men to impregnate 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different women. We're not going there and forcing the black women to have premarital sex with multiple men and having multiple baby daddies. We're not going into the black schools and burning their books, destroying their computers, tearing down their blackboards. Whites are not going into black communities and destroying their 7-Elevens, their CVSs, their Walgreens, their Kmarts, or their Walmarts, box stores, creating food deserts. We're not doing that. Black men are dying at a faster rate by murder and homicide, by knife and gun, than they are by any other disease, to include cancer. Whites are not in their neighborhood shooting blacks. Whites are not distributing drugs to the blacks and killing them. Whites are not going to black communities and forcing them to skip school and be not even proficient at like a third grade level as they graduate high school. Whites are not going into the ghettos and destroying and breaking the glass in the windows, spray painting graffiti, ripping park benches apart, throwing all kinds of mattresses and sinks and whatever on in the parks, syringes. No, those are black people. And whites have just come to a limit in their pain threshold. I'm going to show you a video of a man blaming everything on whites. And this is what I'm talking about when I tell you we have all hit our limit. We don't want to hear from a black man anymore telling us how vile we are. The only reason we're discussing blacks is because you're destroying our country. You are an ultra violent group of people. This is not my belief, even though I believe it. It's not a theory I just came up with. Everyone feels it. Nobody wants to go near your communities. This is not me saying it. I could play you 1,000 videos of black influencers, black people just filming themselves, saying the exact same thing I'm saying. But just because I'm white, I'm a racist. How about I'm just a man pointing out factual truth? You don't like that truth? Well, that's not my problem. This is your problem that has become my problem, which makes me pissed off that it's one other thing that I have to deal with in my world, in my life. I live in the Midwest. I can name right off the top of my head within a rock's throwing distance of major cities, 5, 6, 7, 8 major suck cities. I call them suck cities, meaning all of the state resources go to a certain geographic area. And what are those geographic areas? Those are areas that are dominated by the black population. Why is all of our money going to one type of people? If it was all going to the lily white neighborhoods, then I would actually have a problem. Like, hold on a second. Everyone, just because there's a group of people that are not making as much money as me, but they are absolutely invested in the betterment of America and our state, then we need to fund that. My children shouldn't have beautiful school, and your children don't because you're black or I'm white, or because you live in that neighborhood or you don't. We should all have the same. However, when I built your schools and I funded it 3, 4, 5, 7 times, 10 times that of what you're funding my schools, and you burn that school to the ground, I have a problem. Homelessness, soup kitchens, on and on and on and on. And I put all my police resource, so all of my public safety is in your area, and I get nothing. I got a problem. I got a problem when you're taxing me. My property tax goes up. My federal income tax goes up. My state property tax go up. Excuse me, my sales tax go up. Why? Because I have to keep paying for things that you're destroying, and I don't want to pay for them anymore. I want to focus. I want my money, and all of my neighbors' money to stay in our community. If that means your community goes farther into the caveman dwelling stage, well, so be it. You put yourself there. Why do you think there's no mass transit around America? Have you ever asked yourself that? Or you think that we're less capable than the Germans, the French, Europe, Australia? Do you really? Or is it because we want to have the least amount of mobility into our communities as possible? Go into any liberal white enclave. There's no public transportation going in there. There's no bus routes. Why? Because they don't want anybody in there but white people. They're the most hypocritical. But you have white enclaves. Why do they not want, why do those transit nodes, why do they always stop before they get into the white affluent neighborhoods? I'll let you figure that out.
See, the thing is that when the Tea Party was happening, we were saying, pundits, oh, it's just about economic populism. It's not about race. Anxieties about demographic shifts, that the country was changing, that they were seeing these racially ambiguous babies.
Before I continue, I want you to listen how the three white panelists listen to their grunts of approval. They're so coward they can't even look this black man in the face and go, "You are absurd."
On Cheerios commercials, that the country wasn't quite feeling like it was a white nation anymore, and people were screaming from the top of their lungs, "Yo, this is not just simply economic populism." You know, America's not unique in its sins as a country. We're not unique in our evils, to be honest with you. I think where we may be singular is a refusal to acknowledge them and the legends and myths we tell about our.
You hear the about the myths. You know what I can't, and I'll tell you what's also, and I alluded to this before, is we're tired of being talked down to. I don't need this black man telling me what the fuck's going on. It's very clear what the fuck's going on. It's very clear why my wife and son are forbidden from going anywhere near a major metropolitan city. Why? Because there's too many white people? No, because every time they go down to a major metropolitan city, the exponential odds of them getting carjacked, raped, assaulted, or murdered is exponentially increases. Does my wife or my son, when they go to the grocery store in my community, what's the probability of them getting injured in any way? About zero. About zero. If they go 30, 50 miles into the jungle of Kansas City, Missouri, well, there's a damn good chance they're going to get shot. Oh, that's hyperbole. Really? My wife and my son were down there in the parade for the Kansas City Chiefs, where the two gang members started to shoot each other, and my wife and my son were approximately less than 5 minutes from the exact spot people got shot and died. This is not hyperbole. This is spot on. Nick Fuentes says something that really, I never heard it said this way, but he was absolutely spot on. He said, quote, I'm almost quoting him, "I'm going to be as racist as I need to be to survive. I am not going to play this game of I'm afraid to be a racist and then get pummeled. But I can say I'm not a racist, but I just had my eye socket crushed. I can say I'm not a racist, but my wife's been raped. I can say I'm not a racist, but my son got shot. I can say I'm not a racist, and yet I'm buried 6 feet under. Not going to do it."
Inherent, goodness to hide and cover and conceal. There are communities that have had to bear the brunt of America white Americans confronting the danger of their innocence. And it happens every generation. So somehow we have to kind of, oh my God, is this who we are? And just again, here's another generation of babies. It's easy for us to place it all on Donald Trump's shoulders while we're trying to convince white folk to finally leave behind a history that will maybe, or embrace a history that might set them free from being white. Finally.
So all you white people, what's he talking about? What are we trying to be free? We can be free. Well, I kind of want to show you so if I had a chance, like if I was on that panel as a white man, a conservative white Christian man, I would have stopped him multiple times and called him all kinds of names. But I would have said, let me show you a video just so you're clear, sir, as you can talk in your up and down, like sing-song voice. No, let me show you what white people are trying to set themselves free from. And this is what we're trying to set ourselves free from. So enjoy.
'69 is next. Doors open on the left at 69. Soliciting and gambling are prohibited on CTA vehicles.
I know it's violent. I don't care. I'm going to show you. I'm going to keep showing you all hour long what we're trying to free ourselves from.
Yeah, boy. You can hop back in the head, boy. World star.
You know what is amazing on every one of these videos, and I could show you a million, is the indifference of the violence. They, the inner city blacks, have been so conditioned to the insane, violent nature of their people that they are unaffected. In my community and the other thousands of white communities across America, if this ever happened at one of our bus stops or one of our malls or one of our anywhere, it would be covered ad nauseum. And those young adults, they would all be arrested. They would all have their pictures in the paper. Every single person in our communities would be talking about them and their worthless, crappy parents. But not here. Why? Number one, there are no parents. Number two, they are all acting out in this violence as an entire community. Just so we're clear, this is in Philadelphia. So that black man on CNN, I'm not trying to be mean by not remembering his name. I just didn't write it down, so I apologize. But I want you to show you what I and the white community is trying to free ourselves from what that man was saying. Take a look at this video. It's about 21 seconds. And I want to ask you, in your adult life, and many of my viewers are my age, a little bit older, and some are younger, in your lifetime, have you ever seen or been around anything of this nature?
I ain't hear that in a long time.
Nobody cares. They hear gunshots. Nobody even, I'm going to play it again. Nobody even cares. This is every day in the major metropolitan cities. I have lived in the Northeast, the Deep South, California, and now the Midwest. I can't tell you outside of my work on the vile, disgusting, worthless, hopeless, desperate border that I've heard gunshots. Never. Never. Unless somebody's shooting their shotgun at practice or at deer or something, but never at somebody or just shooting randomly. This is the world they live in.
I ain't hear that in a long time.
See, I want to be free from that. That man's absolutely correct. I want to be as far away from that shit as I possibly can. Why? Because I want nothing to do with them. I want nothing to do with that cultural, that societal Chaos, I want nothing to do with it. I'm going to show you a video now, whites and blacks, but the devastation, the destruction of the anti-Christian world that we live in, the anti-Christian nation, the degradation of drugs, inner city corruption, inner city collapse. This is a video of a small clip of a place called Kensington, Philadelphia. I walked through this maybe a half a mile square block, half a mile, maybe a mile of degradation. Open air drug den. I'm going to show you a clip. It's about maybe, if you can think of this, 20 square feet. Now, I want you to imagine the people that I'm going to show you by the thousands littering the streets, ODing, dying, having their limbs cut off because of the drugs, the trank they're taking. This is what our nation has become. But as you watch this, I want you to be absolutely certain that Israel's population is getting free health care. Their children are getting monthly stipends from our taxes. At the same time, I want you to know that all of the pensions have been fully funded in Ukraine. As you watch this, I want you to understand that $1 billion a day is being spent on bombing Iran. As you watch this, I want you to realize that $38 to $40 trillion has been stolen from the American people, and this is what we have left. This is America today. These are the people, they're zombies. And there's thousands of them. If we want to change this in any way, we are going to have to speak with complete clarity, with complete honesty, and without apology. And I'm going to show you a woman. Actually, it's a very attractive woman. That was a teacher, if you can imagine, in the inner city. And she speaks very bluntly to a panel of other black teachers and black influencers and does not hold back. And why should we? Why should we? We should never. We should speak with complete clarity every chance that we get.
I remember being a teacher in an inner city school, and I'd have one or two mothers 2 or 3 times a week, sometimes every day, coming in 30 minutes late with their bonnets and their pajamas and their footies, bringing their kid in, stopping my class 30 minutes late every day, and then getting copping attitude with me when I would say, you need to bring your child on time. We have a situation where in the black community, unfortunately, there is a lack of father and parental father strong figures in the home. And so you're seeing a lot of behavior because of that outcrop of that. And instead of like blaming whitey or blaming slavery or whatever the things that are going to be blamed on this panel, I'm 100% sure, instead of blaming whitey, why not take a look at the behavior that's going on with some members of the black community and have a come to Jesus with them about it? I think instead of being defensive about
you literally just insulted Yolanda and said this is how she walk around in the world.
She's the exception.
I'm not worried about her.
She's the exception. Instead of being offended, instead of being offended by saying that this might be a problem with certain black people, why not have a conversation in the black community?
How about have a conversation? Why do I and the other Americans have to have a conversation about this? Why can't you take it yourself? And the answer is there's nobody to have that conversation with. That's the truth. And I want to show this last thing before I move on to not really another topic, but I want to stay on this man that was on CNN telling me that white people are just, they're trying to be free. Yeah, but it's not from guilt. I have no guilt. What I'm trying to be free from is your violent community. And I'm going to show you this video, short video of what Philadelphia used to look like 50, 60 years ago. And tell me, which Philadelphia would you like? Would you like it the one where you're riding your bicycle down the street and you get shot 50, 60 times and die? Or would you like this one? I think I choose this one.
Soleil et de la pluie. Revenir sur cette histoire, mais c'est beau, j'avoue. J'aurais dû te croire et pourrions-nous revenir sur cette histoire. Soleil.
Which one you going to choose? Fair question. Which one do you want? The one where everyone's walking around the streets, dressed nice, streets are clean, nobody's shooting each other with AR-15s and handguns with 100-round drums. I don't see a lot of people with their butts hanging out. I don't see a bunch of gigantic fat women wearing spandex. When are we going to stop having this topic? When are we going to stop having to have this conversation? And like Tucker Carlson said, this wasn't a problem up until about 20 years ago. Why? Because we imported all these people. We spent all of our time, talent, and treasure on these people. And then they, the black community, something happened. Something triggered a dependency on the government through drug abuse, through criminality, the removal of the black man from the family. So now we're dealing with 13% of our population, which equates to about 40 million people-ish. And now we brought in 50 to 60 million illegal aliens that are completely dependent on the government. So basically 1 in 3 people are completely dependent on the government, violent, antisocial, anti-societal, without civility, without any empathy, animalistic, just by violent levels, animalistic and breeding like animals. I'll be very honest with you, as I always am. Anything less than a revolution, and I mean in the very near future, America's gone. America's gone. This is a math problem now. This is a demographic math problem. We're on the losing end. Like Tucker Carlson said, up until 20 years ago, this was a white Christian nation. In 20 years, laid at the foundation of the Hart-Celler Act in 1965, the boondoggle, disgusting thing that Ronald Reagan, the great conservative, gave us. A conservative Republican gave us amnesty in 86. Remember that when you hear about the great conservative leader. In the 1990s, IRCA Act, another boondoggle. And now the open borders under Joe Biden. This is a demographic change that has never been seen before in the history of the world, not America, in the world. And we will not, and I repeat, hear me clearly, we will not overcome this. I'm looking at present times, and there is nothing on the horizon saying that this is going to change. So a logical honest, critical thinking man will say that the only outcome of having hundreds of millions, 100 million plus of people that are violent, completely dependent on the federal government, have no desire to change, hate the native people of our country, it ends in absolute chaos. And when you live in a world of chaos, you need some certainty. What is that certainty that we're trying to achieve? That certainty would be the ability to stay in constant contact with our loved ones. How do you do that in a time of war? We are in a time of war with Iran. The more Iran blows up, the bigger chance that the terror cells are going to be triggered in America. That is not wishful thinking. That is not hyperbole. That's nothing but somebody that knows the inside workings of things and saying this is going to happen. This is going to happen. I was on a podcast on Friday night with a gentleman named Khalid Mohammed, who is a intel specialist, a terrorism specialist, and an interrogator in Pakistan. And he told me 100% certain that there's going to be terror cells activated in America. And they are going to hit soft targets, schools and churches and malls. It's going to happen. You need to be prepared. And the way you are prepared to communicate is sat phones, Starlink, safety for bulletproof backpacks, Faraday packs, generators. Where do you get all that stuff? Do I trust that it's made well? Is it just some kind of fly-by-night company? No. This is sat123.com. You call their customer service, you get an American on the other line. My ask every day is you just go to their website, sat123.com/JJ, and see and ask yourself a very simple question, but a very profound question. Does my family need this in order to remain safe? sat123.com/JJ. I miss this guy. Who is this guy? Did I agree with him on everything? No, I didn't. But I sure in the hell agreed with him on a lot. And he was murdered. And I'm sure you all agree he was murdered by a guy that loves to make love to transgender furry people. And he was able to break his gun down and put it back together and then put it back together again and leave it. We're never, ever going to know who killed Charlie Kirk. But it wasn't some furry lover on top of some roof that didn't have his sights zeroed in. Trust me on that. But listen to Charlie Kirk. He talked about this subject, and he talked about it with clarity and confidence. And he talked about it to people that are adversarial to him. And he did not bend. That's one thing I will say about Charlie Kirk. He never bent. And on this topic of black crime and black violence and black degradation in America, he was in the forefront way before this was, quote, popular to discuss.
13 to 14% of the population.
Yes,
about half of all prisoners are black.
Exactly.
So blacks commit more crimes than whites do. They commit more murders, they commit more arsons, they commit more kidnappings. For example, blacks are 13% of the population and they commit 58% of all the murders. That's not a war on drugs, that's a culture problem.
Okay, so let's talk about that culture. Black people have been legislatively subjugated up until 1965. I'll give it, I mean, honestly, it's later, but let's just say 1965. You do not think that 10 generations of legislative subjugation and slavery during that time, 4,000 Black men, women, and children are lynched as the result of race riots in this country? You do not think that these things have a lasting effect. We have had 10 generations of subjugation and 4 of legislative
Of course
freedom.
they have an impact, but it's more on you to explain why things got worse since the Civil Rights Act. More violent, less fathers around, poorer. Why is that? So,
because of mass incarceration and the unfair criminalization of Black men.
But let's just take murders, for example. Why Blacks are 13% of the population and commit 58% of the murders? Why is that?
Because people in affluent and whiter neighborhoods are not being policed at the same rate.
Murders,
there are more
murders.
police.
I'm talking about dead bodies. There's no, like, we're not talking about policing. We're talking about murders. Why are so many Blacks committing murders outside of their population?
Okay, let's take it back to some history.
I'm curious for an answer to that question.
I'm going to give you one. So let's go to redlining. Okay, redlining.
Redlining
yes.
is why so many Blacks are killing each other?
No, let me finish my claim.
Okay.
And then you can respond. Is that okay? Okay, so redlining, federally mandated or sustained by the FHA, right? Separating Black Americans to specifically impoverished and relegated areas of the country. We are incapable of buying homes and putting equity into neighborhoods with lower crime rates and better educational systems. We do not have access to things that would uplift and help our community. When you are put in an environment that promotes and reinforces social and economic inequality, you become desperate and are forced to do things that maybe don't align with your values.
But what you're making an excuse for a lot of
Now,
murder
when you have
a lot of stealing,
a high
but
concentration
that-
of a subjugated people in
Hold on.
one area.
If you were right, when Blacks in America did not have the same rights they had today, they were less murderous, there was less break-ins. Why is that?
So I'm sorry, are you trying to say that Blacks thrive under subjugation?
No, I'm not. I'm saying I'm asking you the question. The data shows they were actually better in the 1940s. It was bad. It was evil. But what happened? Something changed. They committed less crimes.
Maybe they were afraid. I mean, 4,000 Black men, women, and children were killed in violent lynch mobs.
If that's your explanation, but
racial terror permeated American culture for hundreds of years.
Black America is worse than it has been.
That affected
in the last 80 years.
The generational psyche of an entire group of people?
Well, I'm sure it did. I'm not discounting that. I'm just trying to understand, why is it the more social welfare we've done? So we've spent $20 trillion on uplifting Black communities. 20 trillion, and Black Americans are poor. We've done everything that's been asked.
You haven't done everything that's been asked, though.
Great society.
Because what is being
stamps,
asked?
Subsidized housing, Medicaid, public schooling, subsidized college. We're talking about $20 trillion that has been spent on the Great Society, and yet Black America is poorer, more murderous, more dangerous. So there's an explanation. I'm asking you to
But we are not
explain that to
asking
me.
for handouts. We are asking for equity.
Hold on,
And
what
part
does-
of
what does
equity
equity mean?
is
You mean taking from other people?
Excuse me. It means
I mean, sharing. That was great for Charlie Kirk because he let her just hang herself. Do you see what her excuse was? Well, our culture, our people, you put our people in an area and then we start killing each other. You can't put us together. That's basically what she's saying. Because you redlined and you wouldn't let us buy houses in the white neighborhoods, you put us all together and we kill each other. I don't see Asians killing each other. Hell, outside of the Mexican gangs, I don't see anybody killing each other in the Hispanic communities. I live near them in Southern California. Was there violence? Yeah. Was there? Yeah, there are all kinds of stuff. But there was more family oriented. And when are we going to stop blaming everybody for all of your problems? When? It's like I tell my young son, there are things that are outside of your control in the world. You can't control a 2008 crash when the bankers steal everything and our government pays them all back with our money and our houses crumble because they were thieves. You can't do anything about going to war consistently in the Middle East, draining all of our treasure. You can't. But what you can have is 100% ownership of your life. Meaning, No matter how many things are outside of your control, you control every aspect and you own every aspect of your life. Because with that, you control your destiny. When you blame everybody for everything, you will accomplish nothing but degradation. Does in the last thing is 5 years, 38,000 white women have been raped by black men. Can Kanisha with the 17 piercings in her face explain to me what's the rationale why 38,000 of our women have been raped and zero, not 5, 0 black women have been raped by white men? Can anybody articulate that to me? Why? And nobody can. We're all tired. That thing called black fatigue is real. Blacks, as I've listened to black commentators say, they are tired. They have black fatigue. This is Detroit. Detroit, I'm going to show you a video of Detroit. Young black teens and early 20s take over the downtown. It's the same thing in New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Birmingham, Atlanta. It doesn't matter. This is why my wife and son are forbidden to go to any major or mid-sized city in America. Period. Period. When do you think there is going to be some shame? I think that's a fair question. When's the shame going to come in? When are people going to say, you know what, you're embarrassing me. You embarrass our family. I guess you need a family. This is another video, one of thousands. And if I feel exhausted, it's because I just gotta keep watching this. This is another black mob of teenagers brutally stomping and trying to kill a white individual. It looks like when it's done, it looks like a female, if you can believe this. Because she's wearing spandex. This is in San Francisco, so hell, I don't know. But it looks like a female, just the way her body's built, in a mall in San Francisco. Maybe the bigger question is not about the black community. Maybe I just struck me. When the biggest and most important question is, when are you, white America, going to say you've had enough? I think that's the stronger question. They're not going to do anything for themselves. What are we going to do? What are we going to do as an American society and culture that keeps allowing this to happen every single day? When do we hit our threshold as Americans when we say, black included, black, Hispanic, and white? When are the true American people, the Christian, faithful people, when are we going to say, we can't do this anymore, and we're going to shut it down? And the only way we're going to shut this violence down is a very concerted, controlled violence back, mass incarceration. Any sign of no rehabilitation, they just stay there forever. I don't care. I don't want to roll the dice on any true American with a savage. Put them in a cage where they belong. Do you understand that's brain damage? When somebody weighing about 200 pounds flies in the air and then lands stomping on your head, do you know you're having your brains beginning to swell? Your skull is being crushed. Do you understand what we're watching here? Do you understand what the fuck is going on in America? That's a girl. You see her body? That's a girl. Look at their culture. Look at their culture. Look at their culture. The only way that this is going to end, besides a violent revolution and a culling of the herd, is going to have true judges like this man. And I'm not a big fan of judges by any stretch of the imagination, but men in black robes, not women, are going to have to dole out punishments that are severe. I don't know what this guy's crime is, but I do know what he's being forced to miss. And this judge just says it just like it is.
This is the type of shit we do, roll up on at the goddamn barbershop in this city? Are you kidding me? You're going to jail. Anybody who tries to do this, they're going to be sent a message the same way. They're going to jail. You're serving 180 days in the county jail.
Your Honor, could I ask one thing concerning that? He's a high school senior graduating in May of this year.
He's being held accountable as an adult under the law, and that's the way we're going to deal with it.
If we could postpone any jail time until weekends or until he graduates, which would be May of this year.
Yeah, it's some problems. This is the problem you have when you do something like this. It fouls up everything, including your education and your future. That's why you try not to make foolish decisions like this. And this is about as foolish as it gets. No, he's going to jail. This is the type of shit we do, roll up on.
Yep. That's how you handle it. Not some white Karen, liberal Karen on the bench just releasing him so he can go and do some more savage shit. Tyrell Mohammed, someone I interviewed for my documentary, gang member, 21 years in prison, changed his life. He told me, and I'm going to repeat it again, nobody's going to care about Black America and Black Americans until they stop killing each other and we roll into the suburbs and start killing whites. That time is here. It is happening all over. And if you look at these videos, you're going to see something that is going to make your head spin even more, is they are all young. And if you think they are going to be rehabilitated and be in our workforce and our society, and they're going to be contributing to our nation, you are an absolute moron. So what we're looking at in the next several decades is extreme violence. extreme degradation, extreme chaos. And they're going to force us to react. And as I've told you many, many times, that revolution is going to be violent.